honor those who responded that day, honor those who perished, and tell the story of the heroism in the skies over New York City and in the FAA and NORAD control centers that day. We're very, very fortunate to have the pilot, Lieutenant Colonel Tim Duffy, and Tim is going to tell you a lot about what he saw, what happened to him that day, and his perspective, and afterwards he's going to take Q&A. Lieutenant Colonel, now Colonel Tim Duffy.
We had training missions going, so every day we had guys take off at 9 o'clock in the morning and at 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And so I was just out by the duty desk. We had a 9 o'clock takeoff schedule, 6 guys getting ready to go out and fly. And I was just kind of harassing them before they went out the door. Just kind of lobby. And as they were getting ready to go, the phone rang at the duty desk, and the sergeant behind it just picked up and said, hey, Colonel, you got a phone call. And I asked who it was because I didn't hear
kick up the volume a little bit. It's not enough. Give you the high side and turn it up more.
And he said, it's Otis Tower or something about a hijack. His name knows in the Air Defense Squadron. That's how it works. So as soon as you hear hijacking,
let me know.
I reached in my pocket, pulled out the radio, we call it Brick, and it said Alpha Kilo 1 and 2 suit up. So as soon as you hear something like that, it's going to get the 2 alert guys moving. So told the patch to call the command post, and we went running in to get suited up because we put on the G-suits and harness and helmets and all that stuff, and then get out to the jets. So as I get in there, I was actually going to be number 2 this day. Dan Nash was going to be the flight lead, and as we were getting suited up real quick, I just asked him, his call sign was Nasty, and I said, hey Nasty, you ever done a hijack? And he said, no, and I said, I have, and he said, okay, you got the lead. So since I had experience doing that before, he just passed the lead to me right there. So we ended up going in. Squadron commander was in command post trying to get everybody on the radios and try to find out what was going on because NORAD and everybody wasn't really tied in yet. So he was trying to get everybody on the same sheet of music. And he just told me, hey, it's American Flight 11, 767 from Boston to California. Looks like the real thing. So I said, okay, we're going to the jets. So we ran out, jumped in the truck, drove about a quarter mile out to where the alert barns were, and went up and got strapped into the planes. It took about 3 minutes, I guess, 3 or 4 minutes. It was enough time for me to strap in, talk to my crew chief, kind of let him know what I knew up to that point. And because they gave us battle stations, which means get in the jet, strap in, but don't start. So we sat there and waited for a few minutes. After that, the alert horn went off, which told us to go ahead and scramble horn, and we started up and proceeded to take off. So about 5 minutes after the horn went, we were airborne. As we were climbing out, going down towards New York, our initial vector was west. I climbed to 290, to flight level 290. So we were heading down there. I chose to leave it in full afterburner the whole way while we were going down. Going through about 18,000 feet, Nasty called me up and said, hey Duff, you're going super. So I just gone supersonic, which we really weren't supposed to do. It was kind of against the regulations, but we were up about 20,000 feet, and I figured, well, we're not blowing out any windows or anything. We're going to be fine. You know, I'll take the heat when I get back if anybody wants to press it. Which in hindsight worked out okay, because when I was talking to the 9/11 Commission, they were all for that, so it kind of worked out. But at the time, just didn't know. So we started pressing down towards New York City. I called for bogey dope, which is what we call bogeys and unidentified aircraft. Dope is information, so when I called for bogey dope, they'll vector you on somebody. They were vectoring me. They said your contact's over at JFK, and at the time I was flying 777s out of Kennedy, so I knew right where we were going, heading down Long Island Sound, and had my head down on the radar. And at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday around New York City, there's a lot of planes, so trying to pick that one out of all of them was kind of tough. And so we went another 20, 30 miles, and at this time we're going about 1.3, 1.4 Mach. And so we're eating up. We're going roughly about 14 miles a minute. So, they're clicking off, and I called for bogeyed up again, and that's when they came back and said the second aircraft just hit the World Trade Center. So for me, I didn't know there was a second aircraft. I thought I was still chasing an American Flight 11. So, obviously I was kind of a little shocked at that call. I look up and I could see the towers smoking at that point in time. I even called over to NASA. I said, just tell me that's a cloud. he's like, no, smoke. So I called up to the air division and said, okay, you flip a switch in your head, and at that point you kind of go into combat mode, which is just kind of all focus. You go, okay, people are dying right now. What do we need to do to stop this? So at that point, they didn't know what to do with us, so I said, hey, we had a training mission scheduled for that morning. I'll just jump in that airspace because it was all protected airspace, so it gets us kind of out of their way. And we jumped in there. I thought we were going to be there for a while. Now I came out of afterburner because we'd used a lot of gas, trying to get down there quickly. And we hopped in there into the airspace. I thought we were going to be there for a little while they figured it out, and I was really kind of surprised that they came back really quite quickly. I didn't even get a full turn in the holding pattern set up when they told us to proceed direct to Manhattan and set up a combat air patrol. So never really been done in this country before, so it was kind of a strange order. So Nasty and I started proceeding direct to Manhattan, started descending down, and I was working on getting down at lower altitude. As I was doing that, Nasty being a good wingman, he was thinking about, hey, we're kind of getting a little low on gas here. I'm really not sure how long we're going to be able to stay what we call on station over the city. And he called up and said, hey, Duff, we had a tanker schedule for that training mission that morning. So just kind of a stroke of luck for us. Since he was the scheduler, he knew that. So I just called up right away and said, hey, grab the tanker. I called out the air division and said, grab the tanker, put him over Kennedy at 20,000 feet, and we'll come and get our gas when we need it. So that bought us 3 or 4 hours over New York City, where we were probably only had 30 or 40 minutes tops. So that just kind of worked out for us, that we had the tanker schedule. It was just lucky. So then we went down and we started intercepting airplanes, trying to figure out. There's a lot of chaos, and that's something that's kind of lost, I think, in hindsight when people look back. Even with the 9/11 Commission, when I talked to them 2.5 years later, they talk about like everybody had all the facts. We didn't. There was a lot of confusion trying to get planes on the ground. People are not on the right frequencies. They don't know what's going on. So we ended up intercepting a lot of planes, probably between 80 and 100 aircraft over the next 5.5 hours. And either escorting them away or escorting them in the way, depending on where they were trying to go. So we were pretty busy doing that. When the first tower fell, I was escorting a Delta flight into JFK, and just out of the corner of my eye, I saw a little bit of motion. And when I looked back, the southern end of Manhattan was just kind of covered in a tan cloud. And I called up and said, hey, I think one of the towers went down, because I could still see part of a tower. And they came back and said, yep, South Tower's down. They just had it on CNN. And I thought it fell over because I didn't know how it had gone down. There were a lot of things that day that everybody knew more than I did about what was going on, because for CNN or whatever they were watching, people were getting those facts that we weren't getting as quickly. And myself and Nasty were pretty busy for that morning, so we got caught up on a lot of things later on when we got back. We stayed away from the towers for a little bit. We were busy intercepting planes and helicopters. And then a little while later, they asked me to go back and check out the North Tower, see how it was doing. So I flew right by it, kind of even with it. And, I thought the first tower had fallen over, so I didn't realize it had imploded. And as I flew by it, I called up and said, hey, I don't think you can do any kind of rescue off the roof because it was completely engulfed. So I called that in, and I said, hey, I'm going to check the structure. So I was going to fly right up over the top of it. And just kind of looked down at it to see if it was leaning or listing in any way. And I looked at it, and it looked perfect from what I was looking at. I was looking at the square of the roof, and it looked fine. And I was just getting ready to tell them I think they could save the building. And as I was looking at the square, it started getting smaller. And I really didn't understand, from a frame of reference, what I was looking at for the first second or two. And then I saw the plume come down the bottom, and it was getting smaller because it was falling away from me. So I could say, that was probably the one time that whole day that I was truly horrified. Because a lot of times, having been in combat situations before, you kind of put all that stuff out. But I actually gave myself, 10 or 15 seconds, whatever it was, to kind of to be human, and kind of absorb the moment. And then after that, it was like, okay, snap out of it, focus, and keep getting back to your job. So we did that. For, like I said, kept doing the intercepts. I think about noon, we got some help. So 2 more F-15s came in from Otis, from the Cape Cod Guard, and now I had a 4-ship down there, which helped a little bit. And then around 2 or 2:30 or so, they ordered us off. They had some more guys come on down, and Nasty and I got to go back to Otis and land and go right into 24/7 ops that were going. Again, I was the operations officer, so as soon as I landed, we had to figure out, we had the airline pilots stuck out all over the place. You know, we had to get people in, and we were going right into flying around the clock. So we had to put some people in a crew rest, and everybody wanted to come in and help. And some of the people we actually had to say, no, you know, you need to go back, go home, and go to bed, whatever, because I'm going to need you to fly every night. So we went right into that kind of a situation, you know, as soon as we landed. And it kept us pretty busy for the next year or two. We were flying quite a bit with Operation Noble Eagle, which still goes on today. So that was kind of it. Like I said, that was just my view of the world, and you know, some of the decisions we made, kind of what I was thinking, while we're going through there is, you know, it was a big day for everybody. You know, there's a lot of emotion wrapped around it, but you know, for us, we just had I guess, a little different view of the world, you know, for some of those events. And the plane that you guys were able to save, you know, was really integral in the day, and that one's been in combat. It's done a lot of different things. So, you know, thank you all for what you've done, and thank you all for hosting Kim and I. It's been very nice. So, if anybody would like, you know, any questions, yes.
Colonel, did you read the reports that came out of the shooting down of a civilian airline by the Russians going from Anchorage to Tokyo?
No, I didn't.
Well, the Russian pilot told Face that this is a civilian airline. Would you like me to force it back over to land where we come from? And the orders were, shoot it down. And he says, let me repeat, this is a civilian airline. Shoot it down. So he shot it down because he knew he would be dead, and his family wouldn't have anything good to eat. I always wondered if he thought he'd wreck his radio and just don't hear that, shoot it down.
Yeah, well, obviously can't comment on that. You know, different country and different set of rules. Thank God. Yeah, I mean, for ours, it was really straightforward. The only person that could order the shoot down of civilian airlines is the President of the United States at that point in time. So we were not going to get that call until the president had enough data, you know, to make a decision one way or the other. And even then, you know, it would not be, you know, with our culture, you know, we're fighter pilots. We're trained to fight. We're not trained to shoot down airlines. That's not what we do. You know, so it's, you know, it's not our thing. Would you do it if you had to save other lives? You know, the legal, lawful order? Yeah, you would. But you know, that's not anything you did. You know, for us, shooting down other fighters, that's kind of what we're trained to do in dogfights or whatever. But you know, you do what you have to do.
When did you actually get to talk with your wife, and what was that conversation like?
Yeah, the question was, when did I get a chance to talk to my wife, and what was that conversation like? I'm not sure. I'm sure I was wrong, whatever it was. You know, I don't even recall when it was I got a chance to talk. Probably, you know, a few hours after I landed, I probably called to say, hey, I'm back down, and you know, but she knew. I mean, with all that was going on, she knew I was on alert, so she knew we'd be the first one to scramble. You know, we had 5 kids at home, so she had her hands full. I was gone. You know, I'm gonna be gone. But she doesn't need me around. She's got everything under control all the time. So.
She figured you were that initial cap, or?
Yeah, she had figured that one out pretty quick. It was kind of interesting with my kids. You know, a lot of people are concerned and say, well, how did your kids react to all this? And it's funny, I think it's opposite than what a lot of people would think, and say, oh, they'd be freaked out or whatever. Kids being kids, they were very calm. They're like, oh yeah, Dad's got this under control. Yeah, which is funny. You put yourself back into the, you know, into the other kid's mindset, and you're like, oh yeah, Dad's on. Yeah, we're good.
You said after the next day or that evening on, that a lot of planes had to be brought down to land, and then there was no flying. Does that mean that the U.S. fighter plane, brought down all those jetliners and followed them in when they landed? You kind of said after there was a lot of planes in the air and they had to be brought down to airport. Were those planes followed in just as a precaution when they were still up there?
Yes.
Was going on?
Yeah. For those of you who didn't have the question, you know, did we escort everybody in? And the answer is no, not everybody. There were a lot of planes in the air, and what they were doing is, if somebody was acting a little squirrely, or not on radio frequency, or they're having some kind of challenges. A lot of people are just trying to help. We ended up intercepting a bunch of helicopters that were New Jersey International Army National Guard that were coming up there with like medevac type helicopters, so some Hueys or whatever. They were just trying to get up there, but nobody knew they were coming. So now we have 5 helicopters low altitude coming in. Nobody knows who they are, so we're getting snapped on them to go intercept them. And it, looking back, there's actually some little parts of the day that kind of make you chuckle, which just kind of seems weird. But the New Jersey helicopters were one of them because I don't know who these guys are, so I'm all focused. I'm trying to get there quick, and I'm swinging around, doing a high to low conversion on them, and I'm just trying to go in and try to identify these guys. Well, they look up and they see an F-15 coming down, and they get on guard on the radio, and they're like, F-15, F-15, we're friendlies, we're friendlies. And I'm like, okay, guys, got it. I sit tight. I could talk to them because they had UHF, but the problem is with the F-15, we had dual UHF radios. Airliners use VHF. So I couldn't talk to the airliners, so that was just one of those. So I would have to fall right up beside them, rock my wings, give them hand signals for whatever I wanted to do, or turn into them, or turn away. They'd have to follow me if I was trying to get them out of the area. I'm sorry? I don't know. The F-16s have UHF and VHF. They always have. That's the way they were designed. I don't know if some of the Eagles had a mod put on them where they added the VHF radio. I don't know if they've kept it up or not. I've been out of it for 4 or 5 years. Yes, sir.
I'm not so sure of the chronology, but I'm just wondering why you weren't involved with the other 2 airliners that crashed.